Now we're going to go to our daily cancellation. And for our daily cancellation today, I'm afraid that I have to cancel Tomi Lahren. Now, I used to work with Tomi, full disclosure. We were both over at the Blaze for a while. We were in different states, so it's not like we collaborated closely together. But I went on her show a few times, and it was great. And so this cancellation is nothing personal, but it must be done. Because nobody escapes the wrathful gaze of the daily cancellation. You know that by now. Even my wife and kids don't. Nobody, no mortal. Even immortals, okay? They aren't necessarily off the hook either. So Tomi is canceled for a lengthy PSA that she published yesterday, a 14-minute video criticizing men, talking about why men are terrible and why her own relationship problems are the fault of men. And men are, as she said, trash. Take a listen.
These women range in every body type and everything. They're all successful, they're all intelligent, they're all good people. But if all of these women, including myself, are having issues, then I have to think, it might not be us. It might be you. It might be men. It might be men. Now, I've often talked about the pussification of America and how men are no longer men. I talk to my mom about this a lot, and she says, well, maybe it's just the guys in Texas. Maybe it's just the guys in Los Angeles. It is not just the guys in Los Angeles, Nashville, Dallas, and they're not any better in the Midwest. Quite frankly, I think they're trash all over this country in the age range of about 20 to I think about 55, maybe even 60. A lot of men are trash. A lot of men don't know how to treat women. A lot of men don't know how to really, quite frankly, pull their heads out of the sand and pay attention. So I am going to help you.
Tomi also said, reading now from Amanda Prestigiacomo's Daily Wire article about it, she also said, I'm not a feminist, so please don't take this as a feminist rant. Lahren interjected after imploring men to follow up with plans instead of merely texting women. I love men. I think men are great. I think men have failed themselves and they failed us. And I'm trying to help you out because I love men. I think they're great. They're just failures. That's all. They're great, but they're failures. That's all I'm trying to tell you. They're great failures. They're great at failing. Anyway, she says, and I'm just trying to help you out because I think there are a lot of really great guys out there who need a little help. And I don't think there are a lot of women that are stepping up and saying these things. This isn't patronizing at all, is it? I think you're fantastic. I just think you need a little help. That's all. You need help from me, a 27-year-old blonde woman. So, continuing, she says, so I'm going to go ahead and say them because they need to be said. I am really so sick of my friends having to deal with trash men. I'm tired of dealing with trash men. The pundit also told men to value and not, quote, mix in people like me and my friends who have something going on with your other girls that have nothing going on. Don't mix us in with the Tatianas. Is that a, what is that? Thotinas? Is that a thing the kids are saying now? I don't know what that means. Don't mix us in with the Thotianas. Anyway, and then she goes on from there. Okay. Now, it goes without saying that if a man were to ever make a video claiming that most women between the ages of 20 and 60 are trash, it would be roundly condemned as insanely sexist, and he would be written off as a bitter, lonely, virginal incel. That's what would happen. We all know that. Women have a better chance of getting away with something like this. Now, at least the consequences aren't as severe. Tomi is sustaining quite a bit of criticism for this, and rightly so, but it's not the same as it would be if her name was, Thomas, or her name was spelled Tommy instead of with an I. It'd be a totally different ballgame, and we all know that. Now, yes, it's true that men have issues in this culture. It's true that many men are not living up to their calling as men, are not fulfilling their masculine duties. It's true that some men are soft and pathetic and rather wimpy. It's true that some men would rather lay around the house all day playing video games than actually go out and live a real, active, assertive life. All of that is true. And you could argue that all Tomi was doing was pointing these things out, but there are two problems. Number one, first problem is this. We get it. Okay? We really do. We all know this stuff about men. We've heard it a million times. Men are lectured constantly, everywhere, by everyone, always. Men are lectured at in school, at work, in their homes, on TV, at church. You'll notice, speaking of church, and I'm certainly not the first person to have noticed this, that Mother's Day sermons at church are usually about how wonderful and amazing and underappreciated mothers are, while Father's Day sermons at churches are often focused on how men need to step up and do a better job. Okay? And that's the dynamic in the culture that we get. So we get it. We've heard it. That doesn't mean we never need to hear it again, or that it never needs to be said again, but it does mean that if all you have to offer is the same old tired lecture without any additional insight, with nothing unique to add into it, then just don't bother. Save your breath. Save your energy. Because once again, we've heard it. We know we get it. I promise you. Number two, women are not innocent in this. They aren't even more innocent than men. It's more than just, oh, women have faults too. No, it's women are just as bad. They're just as guilty. They're just as culpable. Okay? You want gender equality, right? Well, here it is. Enjoy. Gender equality means that if there's a problem in relations between men and women, you don't get to just assume that it's all a man's fault. Because when you do that, what you're essentially saying is that this is all entirely up to the man. I mean, he has the lead, and he's in charge. And so if things go sideways, it's going to be his fault. That's the only way. The only way you could put all the blame on men is by saying that men are totally in charge and should be. And so that whenever things don't work out, it's going to be their fault. But something tells me that that's not Tommy's perspective. Something tells me that Tomi is not someone who would say that women should always be submitting to the leadership of men. Could be wrong, but I'm guessing that's not her position. And if it's not your position, then you don't get to put all the blame on men, or even most of the blame on men, or even 51% of the blame on men. It is 50-50. Because guess what? I know, you want to talk about anecdotal evidence here, I know plenty of great guys who've had trouble finding women. Trouble finding women who are not, to use Tommy's phrase, trash. And do you know why they've had trouble? Well, because in some cases they don't make a lot of money, or they've got they're employed, they have good jobs, they don't make tons of money, or maybe they don't necessarily look like Calvin Klein models, but they're good men, hardworking men, loyal, intelligent, all of that. Sometimes, I know men like this, I think we all do. They've had trouble finding a woman because in their experience, women will find superficial and materialistic reasons to turn away men who definitely are not in any way trash. So this is a knife that cuts both ways. And here's the thing. If you're having trouble finding a match for you, and if you find that everyone you come across is trash, and that there's a fatal flaw with every member of the opposite sex that you've ever encountered, then yes, it could be that you have horrible luck. It could be, woe is you, you're a victim. This is all everybody else's fault and not your own. That's possible. You could keep getting stuck with duds through no fault of your own. You could keep reaching your hand into the barrel of apples and taking out a rotten one by accident. Maybe, sure. But it's quite possible, and I would say even likely, and in fact quite probable, that the problem is at least partially you. It's quite likely that some of those men who you dismissed as trash actually aren't trash, but you tossed them aside as trash because they failed to meet your expectations in some relatively unimportant area. You might even say you tossed them aside as trash for trashy reasons. It's quite possible that many of the trash men actually are trash, but there's something about you and your personality that attracts those kinds of people. Those are all possibilities too. And so if I was in this spot, and which I'm not, and believe me, here's the other stipulation I'll make, is that anyone who's single, man or woman, in this culture, God be with you. I have nothing but sympathy for you. And I thank God every day that I'm not. Okay, I couldn't be happier to be married. So, but even so, if I was in that spot and I found that I'm looking for a woman, but every woman I meet is horrible and selfish and materialistic and a bimbo and all this stuff, then I'm going to start to think to myself, You know, I think there's going to be a moment where I really stop and I think, what am I doing wrong here? Yeah, maybe everyone else is doing something wrong. It's possible. But then it's weird because I look around and I see that there are plenty of people who manage to find other good people and they have good relationships. That does exist. There are plenty of married people in this country, even young married people who have good marriages. That does exist. It's not a myth. It's not an urban legend. It exists. I'm telling you. I can tell you from experience it exists. So I think I would look at that and I would say, okay. So it is possible to find a good person. Plenty of other people have done it. And yet I can't. Why is that? I could be a victim of the universe. Yeah, that's true. The universe is picking on me. I don't know. Maybe there's something about me that just attracts these types. Am I attractive to horrible people? Or am I someone who can't even identify a good virtuous person because I'm so lacking in virtue myself, and so I have possibly thrown out a lot of virtuous people because I didn't recognize them for the virtues they had. I mean, so this is a self-analysis that I would undergo, and I guess that would be here's my PSA that I'm going to throw out there to not just women, men and women. You know, if you're having problems in this regard, rather than blaming everybody else and giving tips and advice to other people. By the way, I always love it when people who have not had a successful relationship give relationship advice. Okay, that's like if you're training someone on how to fly, but every plane that you've ever piloted has crashed. It's like, if I'm a rookie pilot looking for some advice, I'm probably not going to go to you. But in any case, rather than going and giving advice and all of that and blaming everyone, maybe do a little bit of a self-analysis. And the speech and lecture you want to give, maybe go into your bathroom and give that lecture into the mirror. Because I think that's probably the number one person that needs to hear it. Thank you for tuning in to The Daily Wire, one of the fastest growing conservative outlets in the entire country. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and then subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any of our content.